like scaffold. Scaffold can be inherently safe and inherently dangerous if it's not done correctly, okay, and not put together per plan. So it really is something that you need to watch and you need to look at. If you've never seen this operation happen, watch it. Watch it for a while. Bring your lunch. Watch these guys do this. It's going to freak you out a little bit at first, isn't it? It's going to freak you out. Oh, yeah, all right, bring more than your lunch. Bring breakfast, lunch, and a little bit of dinner. So it's fine. When we do multiple rigging like this, what do we call this? Christmas train. The slogan, Christmas train. Okay, Christmas train is what they call it. Okay. Does anyone know? Does Turner have a policy that limits how many they're allowed to Christmas tree? Two. Okay, two. So they're allowed to Christmas tree two. If they Christmas tree two, do each of them have to have a tagline? Yes. Okay, so you have to remember they're independently on that ball or on the hook or the block, whichever you might have. So they actually need that based on how they do it. There's a couple of different ways they can do Christmas train. They need to make sure that they're doing it correctly. Let's see here. Lift plans. What's that slide? Okay. Matt, anything else?
I think
Cranes
pretty much
and rigging.
covered. I was brought up earlier, what Dave brought up about the FAA. It's very important when you're working downtown, anywhere in the proximity of the San Diego airport. So it's critical that you get their approval first, or else OSHA will not let you either one, get your general permit for the job, or let your subcontractor, who we usually go with the cranes, get their crane permit from OSHA. So the FAA needs to be cleared out of the way. Pretty much. But I think you pretty much can clear
Absolutely.
everything else.
You know, FAA's got to be there.
So for tower cranes, if you have them on your job site, make sure you look at access for the operators. First of all, because they get there early in the morning, so you want to make sure you have clear access, good lighting. And then at the end of the day, too, they've been sitting all day sometimes, so who knows what they're doing up there if they get a chance to stretch out their legs. But when they get down on the job site, they can encounter situations where they're not familiar and get injured. I know we've had already a couple of incidents here in San Diego with tower crane operators.
We have. And I'm sorry to expand on what Andres just said. The lost time recordable injury at 9th and Broadway was our tower crane operator. Okay. And his access that he had been doing for over a year off the project. And I can only back up and support what Andres just said, is we have to make sure that we're providing good, clean, safe access to them. And in this case, we actually did a lot to reduce the amount of rungs the operator has to climb up every day. Ours was 227 rungs of a ladder was going up the one at 9th and Broadway. So that gets real tiring and real old every day. So we ended up building a bridge from our deck over on one of our levels much higher so that he could take a hoist up and then access it that way. Smart, right? It actually reduces the injury. It helps with the ergonomics and all that stuff. Well, it was when he was end of the day, end of shift, been working all day, and came down all those rungs now. So at this point now, I think he's coming down like 168 rungs, something like that now is what I believe he had to go up and down every day. Okay? And he was walking off the bridge. We built him a nice wood true bridge with rails and everything. Okay? And he was coming down off of that, and there was a portable welding machine that was there. Coiled up, neat, oily, but hadn't been there before. And he went to step over it, and as he went to step over it, his foot caught on the little handle, the little handle that's on the portable welding machine. If you know what I'm talking about, you'll go, I know exactly what she's talking about. And he went down all the way to the ground. So this is what happened. So it was a hard blow to our project. I'm sorry, Andres.
And then I'm going to add, also with big mobile cranes, these guys, they do a good job, the oilers, of keeping them clean, but they're always trying to climb up and around it when the actual crane's in operation. I've had to numerous times remind the guys, I know what you're trying to do, but there's no reason why he should be in pinch points or trying to ride the back end of the crane when it's turning around. And they're at height, you know, they're 6, 7 feet up in the air, so besides the pinch points, they could fall and get seriously hurt. But, you know, they're trying to do a good job. They're trying to keep, you know, they're out there polishing the crane, cleaning windows, cleaning the back end, they clean every bit of that crane. So you have to keep an eye on those guys, because even though you think that they're in a safe area, they're climbing around that crane, they're trying to get around. And, you know, sometimes they'll talk to the operator, maybe even distract them, maybe they'll stand on the rail next to them, you know. All those things we should look at, because the guys are, you know, they could get hurt, so.
I have this reference card, it happens to be from NAVFAC, but I really think it's a great little reference card. If you have never seen what I'm talking about by free rigging, or even some of the multi-purpose machines, it has some really great pictures here, so I'll leave this out. Feel free to take a look at it. I only have the one card, that's what they gave me as an SSHO, was the one card, so. But it really does. Our guys are inventive and creative. That's what I can say. And sometimes it'll look like, wow, they really put some thought and effort into this rigging here, but it's not legal. So, you know, so take a look at that. The other thing that I wanted you to see is Crosby is our friend, okay? Crosby Rigging, okay, is a great company and a great website. They make a lot of the shackles and anytime you see a chain sling or a chain fall as you hear it, okay? Most of our tower cranes use them. They have, a fantastic website. So if you go to their website, any rigging inspection sheet, so if you want chain rigging, wire rope rigging, synthetic rigging, lanyards, any of that stuff, they have a great inspection checklist that you can use. It's got pictures of it and everything right on there. I love it. That's actually what I use for rigging. If I have someone that's doing rigging, I will give them right to them. The JR guys, they know. That's exactly what I use. It also has, for our riggers, some what I call them pocket cards, cheat cards, that help them with the math. It helps them understand the angles and what they need to understand. When is it better to have a wider basket or a double basket or a hitch? Okay, what type of rigging is best for what they're doing? And this is all part of that rigging class. But if you ever don't know, or they don't know, or you have time, pop to the Crosby website, and you know what, I'll add it to the site. I'll add their website to our reference in our SharePoint site so that you can see it. But I wanted you guys to see those as well. Okay. Very last thing, you guys know I'm always trying to remind you guys of resources that we have out there to our access. I have a box of these, so if you need some, let me know and I'll give you this one. These are cleanup tickets. Okay, you can use them for anything, by the way. I know it says cleanup on there. Sometimes I will scratch out cleanup and write SWIPs, and sometimes I'll scratch out cleanup and write, you know, lunch trash, and sometimes I use it for almost anything sometimes, okay, I really do. The guys that know me know I do this. It comes automatically in 3 copies. I love that. White copy we always keep the original. Yellow copy goes to the sub, pink copy goes to that person if there's a person right there, okay. You can put right on there when you want it done, and it says, and I love this statement, you're hereby notified to remove all trash and debris connected with your work in the following areas. I can be specific, I can be very general. Okay, failure to complete this by, you give them a date, time, be reasonable. Okay. Will result in Turner performing the cleanup work and back charging your company. Do we want to do that? No! I don't want to have to clean up anything. And I certainly don't want to have to go through the effort of back charging you because I lose money doing that. Okay? But typically, them getting this makes them clean it up like there's no tomorrow.
It does the trick.
It does the trick. That's what I'm saying. Then you can add this right into your DB02. Okay? It's a fantastic thing. So I want you to know that we have them. They're great for me. I put them in my pockets. I used it at the library when we allowed subs to park underneath. These were little parking tickets too. Do you remember? You're not allowed to park here. You don't have a parking pass. Why are you parked in here? Come see Christine. Okay, that's what it was. That car would never be down there again. It was amazing. Okay, but they work, okay, they do. So, on the downside, okay. Any other stories? James, crane stories from the ship world? Come on.
One time we were working on a crane and when I say we, it wasn't me. We were lifting a lot of materials up onto the ship, and so what they do is they rig up a 8x4 pallet, and then they load pallets onto that pallet. And so we had a bunch of stainless pans that were probably 6 by 10 foot, and they were strapped to the pallet they were on, but not to the actual pallet that was rigged to the crane. And so when they picked it up, just as they got over the deck of the ship, the wind coming from across the bay, from across the bay, blew the whole pallet of stainless pans, probably like 85 feet, and put a hole in the pier. There was painters that were working, which was another problem actually. The painters weren't working on the pier; they were working below the ship in the dry dock. And so, had the crane swung a little bit further, all those pans would have fell into that area. But we were lucky just with property damage. So the idea is that you want to make sure that that you have your whole load secured, and to figure for the wind.
Yeah.
And they were heavy. It was really heavy. You wouldn't think the wind would blow it over. You would think that the weight would be enough.
One of the other things you have to really look at when you're planning for cranes and logistics, site logistics. Sometimes space is a real factor. Where can we put these cranes? Where do they fit? How can we get them in there? Is if we ever have to side load a crane, okay, they lose a lot of capacity when they do that. When we lose a lot of capacity is when we add the additional jibs onto the crane. We really do lose a lot of capacity of that crane. So really understanding the configuration and what needs to happen for those cranes is a huge thing. Then, if you have to leave a crane out in a street closure overnight, I always want you to think about security of that crane, okay? How are we preventing cars from running into it and hitting it, and theft and vandalism and all this kind of stuff? This is not an inexpensive piece of equipment, okay? So let's think through that act also, okay? Brett, anything else? Dave's got something.
Yesterday, our drilling company came on site and was using Western Drilling for our caissons, and they have their crane and they have their drill rig, and so they were rigging the boom on the crane. But we stopped all the work as planned, because we had planned a pre-task plan, and everyone that was going to be involved with the drilling the caissons gather around so that the crane operator could go through his safety briefing. And as part of the discussion, and we all use mobile cranes on our jobs at one time or another. We might not all be involved with tower cranes. But he brought up that other trades are noisy. The concrete guys, they yell at each other, they whistle, and they hoot, and it's kind of their way of communication, the concrete guys, the rod busters, and you hear a lot of this on the job. He said it's really distracting for a crane operator. When somebody hollers like that, immediately you want to hit the brakes on the crane, and it causes the load to swing. And he happens to have an old conventional that's, doesn't have power assist brakes and clutches, and you really got to stand on them, especially when you're under load.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of like when you're driving down the freeway and someone in your car hollers, immediately you want to hit your brakes. So it's just good advice, good safety procedure. Let the other trades know around when the crane's there, when they're operating, to kind of keep the job site quiet, to prevent those distractions. Something I hadn't thought of before. And I thought it was really good for him to bring that up.
You know what, I think that's great advice all the time, not just when cranes are out here, because I say it all the time, and if you hear a lot of yelling and things like that on a site, especially if you're hearing a lot of frustrated yelling, it's usually an indicator of how things are being communicated and going, okay? I always say, if you hear people though that are kind of whistling as they work and happy, and it tells you how things are going. It gives you a picture of the site a little bit earlier. So the other piece, this really happened not too long ago at 9th and Broadway, okay? The soccer, okay? The soccer games, okay? All right, the soccer, okay? So we had the FIFA Soccer World Cup, right? The FIFA Soccer, right? I had to learn all about this soccer, right? So, we got a complaint, okay, from some women that were passing by across the street at one point that said people were hollering. But they couldn't say they were necessarily hollering at them, nor could they say, like, I said, were they like whistling at you? What were they doing? Tell me, so that we can truly, you know, this is a serious matter to me and to us. And, you know, we had preached and talked to these folks about, hey, you guys, you're not allowed to, you know, no cat calls, no this, no, you're not allowed to do any of this. This is the, you know, I almost said the 20th century, and someone's like, it's not the 20th century anymore, Christine. Okay, it was, you know, after investigation, we realized it was funny because Soraya had actually been in the parking lot coming from the office to the site, and she heard the hollering too, okay? And I run out there, you know, Brian Lick, we run out there, because we're like, we're gonna get these people, right? There's no cat calling going on around here, right? And there's nothing. It's like lunchtime, and there's the whole lane closure is just quiet and dead and everything. Next thing we know, we hear, obviously it was the end of the Mexico soccer game.
Brazil.
And the entire workforce was watching the soccer game and was hooting and hollering about the soccer game. It had absolutely nothing to do with anyone or anything else out there. So, but it's very interesting how sometimes this other noise and stuff can affect things. So I think that's a really great point from your operator. I really do. Okay. Matt, anything else? I already hit on you.
No,
Isaac,
okay.
coming around, just going around the table. Dan,
Great
really
session.
shared a great story. Okay, coming over. Welcome. So good to see you. Okay, Holly, she liked the soccer story.
I heard them, they were roaring, they were really excited.
They were hooting and hollering. I have to say, we have some serious soccer fans.
A lot
On
more got done
there.
that day.
Okay, they were,
Great,
okay.
of course.